right, and here comes Emily Bear.
Not her.
Hi, welcome. It's good because I've already jumped out of this one. You been in school today or taking the morning off? Okay, are you going back this afternoon?
No.
So, well, let's start off right there. You are 14 now. What school do you go to?
I am a freshman at Rockford High School.
And how do you like it?
I love it. It's great.
Go Vikings?
Go Vikings.
I've seen pictures of you at football games and stuff like that with your face painted and stuff like that. Is that fun?
Oh my gosh, football games are the best. And just to, put out there, this is the first time we beat Behling in 11 years.
That's something to be said for beating Behling, yes. That's any of the, what's the conference called, the Nick 9?
Big 10.
Nick 10, okay, yeah. Anybody who beats Behling is always doing a good thing. All right, well, what are you playing tomorrow?
I am playing the Grieg piano concerto for the very first time, and a piece that I wrote for Orchestra called Le Voyage, and then another little surprise.
Surprise. What might that be? An encore, perhaps? Of course, you're going to have to play good enough before the other pieces to get the encore. So if you don't play, they're not going to ask for the encore. Well, a lot of people know about your background. They know quite a bit about you. But let's just plunge right into the Grieg. Tell us about how you came to be playing the Grieg piano concerto and what you think about it. What's been your experience?
Well, I don't really exactly remember how we chose to Grieg, but I remember it was, it was obviously beautiful. And we listened to a few concertos, and this is the one that I liked the best. And so that's why I learned it. And it's been, a pretty, hard, tough process, but it's pretty much worth it in the end.
Well, it's a difficult concerto. It's one of the most popular concertos in the repertoire. Just an idea of the popularity of the Grieg. In the Rockford Symphony Library, each piece that's accumulated in the library since its very first year has been given a number in the library system. So the very first piece, I don't remember, number 1, I don't remember what that is. But Beethoven's 5th is about number 4 or something like that. Well, Grieg is 99 and the Tchaikovsky 4th Symphony is 97, I think. So they were probably purchased in the first couple of years of the orchestra. And now the library is up to like 11,000 or something pieces. So this is one of the pieces that were purchased very, very early on. This is a very popular concerto. But when you say that we chose the concerto, we're not talking about us. Tell us about how you decide what you're going to play.
As in Le Voyage?
How do you decide what piece you're going to be working on next?
It usually depends on what me and my teacher, agree on. But my teacher, her name's Mary Sauer, and she's amazing. She plays for the CSO. And before this, I actually played Rhapsody in Blue, which was one of my favorite pieces. And I thought this would be, a nice contrast to the Rhapsody, and something I had never quite played like before. Except for, I'm pretty sure the Schumann. I played the Schumann piano concerto, and some people say that Grieg kind of modeled his concerto after the Schumann, but yeah.
Oh, so your concerto experience, your first concerto was Mozart, which of course is chosen because you had small hands back then. And you've got to be able to play the notes. Next was it next Schumann was next, or was it the Gershwin?
I think we were gonna work on the solo Gershwin, the Rhapsody in Blue, but for solo piano, just for some performances. And after that, we were also thinking of the Ravel concerto in G, I think.
And I remember back when you were working on the Gershwin, you really wanted to play the Gershwin, but Mary wouldn't let you. Why? Why was that?
My hands were just a little too small, and literally as soon as my hands could reach a 9, I started playing it.
She was afraid you were going to hurt yourself if you tried to play the Gershwin, which is true. You know, well, as a matter of fact, Schumann himself, who was going to be a great pianist, ended up hurting himself and not being able to play piano anymore because of that. So you played the first movement of the Schumann?
Yeah, it was only the first movement.
Do you like that piece?
Yeah, it was a great piece. It was beautiful, and I loved all of his melodies.
Are you planning on learning the rest of it?
Probably at some point I will, because I think it's a great concerto, and I would love to finish it.
Yeah, people talk about the Grieg being modeled on the Schumann. Matter of fact, if you buy a recording of the Grieg piano concerto, you're probably always going to be buying a recording of the Schumann because they're always released on the same disc. Same pianist, but two different concertos. Both in the same key. They sort of open the same way. So they always get released together. And both of them only wrote one concerto. Just Schumann wrote one and Grieg wrote one. So they're kind of perfect together. So when did you start working on the Grieg?
A little less than a year ago is when I started. I mean, you know, working on a concerto is hard because learning the notes only takes, you know, a couple weeks. But it's all the layers.
Maybe for you.
But all the layers and details, the amount of little things you have to put in the concerto to really make it special is what takes a year.
How do you go about when you start learning a concerto? What do? Do you just start reading from the beginning and just keep on going?
Well, my teacher says that I should only read it through if I know I can play it perfectly. And my mom also says that too, which is very true because I tend to, you know, create some bad habits if I play something wrong, which everyone does. So you just have to go through it when you're first starting out really slowly, or you might, you know, end up with some bad habits.
That's very interesting. So how long did it take you to get through the first time? Because there's a lot of notes in there.
Did I play through all three movements? It was probably a couple months after I started learning it that I could actually play it all through. I mean, it definitely was not up to tempo yet, but it's certainly a lot of stamina you need to play this piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one of the most physically demanding concertos, but it still is it demands a lot of power, a lot of strength, and a lot of speed.
More than speed and strength, I think, is focus, because even the slow parts, you have to put so much into each note that you play and make sure your phrasing sounds impeccable, and, you know, just moving the audience like how you would want to, like, convey the emotions that he was trying to write.
And how do you know what those emotions are?
I kind of just figured. I read something on Grieg is that he's from Norway, and this piece was basically...
That makes him a great man.
This piece is basically a reflection of Norway's beautiful landscapes and basically his country.
Yeah, and it used to annoy me that people would often misspell his name G-R-E-I-G. You know, transposing the I and the E, and then until I found out that was actually his family name. His father was Scottish, originally Scottish heritage, and that was the spelling of the name until they came to Norway, and for reasons of, well, for the same reasons people often change the spelling of their name when they come to this country. They want to be able to have people pronounce it. So he changed the spelling of his name to G-R-I-E-G, the Norwegian fashion. So that's why we have Edvard Grieg instead of Edvard Grieg. What do you, okay, after this is over, what's your next big project?
I'm actually working on some other stuff in a couple different genres, but I'm taking a little break from touring and hopefully coming out with a new album soon. So that's probably another big project. And I also really want to start rebuilding my repertoire because I've been playing concerto after concerto for about 4 years now. And I think it's exciting to start some smaller pieces.
So the solo piano literature, where do you think you're going to begin?
I'm not sure. I started a Bach piece a couple months ago, and one of the English suites. I do not remember which one, but it'll be nice to learn some stuff on a smaller scale. And also, I love Bach, and he's also really important in the theory world, so that'll be nice to connect the two.
Yeah, Bach is, I think every performer I know, if they had to take one piece that they could only play for the rest of their life, it's something by Bach, because it's just something that just gets down to the very core of the soul. So Bach, what about classical, romantic, any other pieces? Chopin, what else?
Yeah, definitely. We haven't really discussed it yet, but it's definitely something on the list.
Now, how often do you have lessons?
We try to have them once a week, but our schedule is a little crazy. And my teacher's schedule, she plays with the CSO, so they're often traveling, and so it usually ends up going to 2 times a month, and sometimes once a week, but it really depends on what we're both doing.
I know you spent some time out in California recently. What have you been doing out there?
I've been doing some songwriting, which is really fun, and going to a bunch of meetings with some really exciting stuff happening, so stay tuned.
Songwriting, you write your own lyrics?
I work with a lyricist, and we kind of work on them together because I haven't really worked with voice a lot. But I feel like I've definitely grown as a songwriter and a lyricist in the past couple months.
You sing us something? No. I'm not serious. I would never have you do that. So, the lyricist, who is this person, and how do you work on things together?
Well, it's a few different people. I've had a bunch of different sessions with a bunch of different writers, but the main one that I work with, her name's Alana. She's incredible. And usually we start out with a little piano idea because we like to keep the songs more piano-based. And we work from there. We find the chords we want, and we find the lyrics or what we want to write about. We usually start with like a concept, and we just build off of that. And the hardest part is just trying to make sure everything rhymes.
Well, you don't have to worry about that.
Most of the time.
She has to worry about making it rhyme. Yeah, but you have to write the music. Now, when you write the songs, what do you do then? Do the two of you kind of sing them together, or is it just, do you perform it for each other, or what happens to the song?
Right now we have some pretty good demos up, and she actually had me sing on them. And it's pretty exciting, but it's something that I've never really done before in the pop world, and it's nice to write some music that people my age would listen to.
People your age listen to, oh, well, okay. Don't know where to go with that one. Do you have, songwriting is something, of course, this is a fairly new part of your abilities, but do you have particular songwriters, either old or new, that you particularly admire?
There's so many. There's this guy, he's a very popular songwriter right now. His name is Ryan Tedder. But there's a bunch like, what's his name? Marlon Hamlish. I mean, I've always thought he was incredible because, he also dabbles in a bunch of different genres, and obviously Quincy, he's incredible. And he also was in like 6 different genres. And he actually wrote film music for 32 films, which no one knows about, which is insane.
I know about. He's one of the great film composers. He really is. But also somebody who's a great jazz musician and composer and just everything else. Just a performer. Quite something. Probably not everybody knows about your relationship with Quincy Jones. Tell us the story.
Well, I met Quincy through a friend when I was 7, and I first met him at his home, and he's honestly the most down-to-earth, incredible person, and he of all people should not be down-to-earth because his career has been one of the most legendary of the entire world. And, when I'm talking to him, we're hanging out, I mean, the age difference just falls away. It's just music with music, and ever since I was 7, he's been one of my hugest mentors.
And he's 80-something now. I don't remember how old he is. Do you know the exact year?
He just turned 83, but I mean, he's traveling the world, he's doing so much, and he's doing great, he really is.
met him at a jazz festival, I think. Didn't you hear you play at a jazz festival?
No, he brought me to a bunch of jazz festivals, but I just met him through a friend who heard me play.
And what do you talk about when you talk about music?
Different stuff. I can show him one of my new scores, and he just goes over it and gives me critiques, or just everyday stuff, or I mean, it can be anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he studied with this lady who is one of the most remarkable orchestration and theory teachers, but she was in Paris. Her name was Nadia Boulanger. He always tells me everything that she taught him.
Yeah, Nadia Boulanger taught generations of composers. Aaron Copland was one of her students, it goes on. I know I have several friends who studied with her. She was a legendary teacher of music theory and orchestration. Had a very, very, very long life and a very, very long teaching career. Did he tell you any Boulanger stories?
He told me that when he first came to her, he came with a Ravel score, and she said, take the first 15 measures and transpose it into all 12 keys.
And what did he think about that?
I mean, he didn't love it at the time, but I guess he's thankful.
And what did that teach him?
I mean, I probably just taught him of, I don't know.
Well, Ravel is a fairly complex composer, and probably.
I have a good answer now. I thought of something. I feel like it would probably teach him an understanding of the way Ravel orchestrates, because if you spend that much time with his orchestration, you'd probably learn the ins and outs of everything that he did.
Well, one of the things I can tell you that you'd find out if you started transposing it to 12 different keys is that all of a sudden some instruments don't work anymore, or you can't, it's too high, or it's too low, or it sounds terrible there in that particular key, and you just can't do that. So you find out, I mean, people can tell you all that, you can't write for this instrument out of this register, and this is, but once you see it, once you put it down on paper yourself, you realize, oh, that's a problem, isn't it? Yeah, she was really something. You're talking about a new album. Tell us about the new album.
Well, I'm also working on some orchestral stuff, which should be fun. But this new album should be a little more pop-based. But it's really exciting, and I don't know really much about it, but we have a bunch of songs that we've done already and a bunch of songs that are coming. And I mean, it's just really fun.
Now, when you say songs, are you talking about songs literally that are sung, or are these pieces for a jazz trio, or what format is this?
Well, I have written some new jazz tunes, but these are going to be sung.
And who's going to sing?
It might be me, or I might send him to someone else, but I think it might be me.
Another thing that you're going to be good at, I'm sure. That's incredible. So what have you got planned for the summer?
This summer, well, I'm going to camp. Unfortunately, it'll be my last year at camp. But I'm also going to do some more songwriting and have a few concerts. And that's pretty much it. We have a few family trips to go on before Benji goes back to college. But yeah.
Andrea, can I tell us a story about the camp? Okay. It's the camp. The camp has an Indian name, and there is an old joke in my wife's family that whenever they had a family trip, they would come across an Indian name. Her father, Don Vine, would very confidently say, "That means home of the bear." And so this is 3 or 4 years ago or something. We were at a party at the Bear's house, and Andrea was telling me about how the kids are going to this camp with this Indian name. And I said, oh, you know that means home of the bear? And she said, oh, really? And And I said, yeah, he's home with a bear. And so I thought I'd put one over on her. So about a year or two later, we were back at it was a Halloween party, as a matter of fact, and she said to me, "You know, the kids are going back to camp. You know that this camp means home with a bear?" And I said, "Andrea, I told you that." And she said, "It doesn't really mean home with a bear." He said, "I've been telling everybody it means home with a bear." Well, about the next day, there was I think either something on NPR or something that it does mean home with a bear. It really does.
They were downtown, and they had like all these like flags down there. Their downtown is like 3 inches big.
Yeah.
But on the little street lights, they have these big flags. Welcome to the name of the town, home of the bear. So I took a picture.
Couldn't believe that. So this is your last year. You've aged out.
Yeah, if I go back next year, I'm not going to be a camper anymore, which would be sad.
You could be a counselor.
It's actually, there's the next level is like a team leadership program, but then the year after that is a counselor training, and then you're a counselor.
Okay, so you're going to bid farewell to the camp. So what are you going to do to occupy your summer besides that?
I don't know. It depends on what's happening that summer. It might be more touring, it might be more writing, it might be more this. Depends on what happens.
No, your principal instrument, of course, is piano. Have you become interested in either looking at other instruments to pick up, or getting more involved in the synthesizers?
I have a ukulele, which I've tried to teach myself how to use. My brother has a guitar that I've also tried and failed to teach myself how to use. I played flute for a few weeks, which was pretty interesting. And I played French horn in 6th grade band, and I brought it home, and my family said I sounded like a dying cow.
So the musical talent is not transferable across the board.
She's very modest. She's very good at these.
And then I played, well, that's it. But, I mean, I definitely want to just learn a couple, not even learn, just kind of experiment on some other instruments just to learn, you know, for orchestrating purposes, just how they feel, what they do, and, you know, what they sound good on.
Yeah, and if you can't do that, just make friends with people who play the instruments and just listen to them play and talk to them about it and have them demonstrate stuff. That's how you can learn about. They could show you what's easy and show you what's difficult, and show you how to make something difficult sound easy and easy sound difficult, and all that stuff. Film composing. I know you're very interested in that. What's new in that regard?
There's a couple of exciting things coming up there, but right now, just working on my skills.
And what are those skills that are involved in film composing?
Film scoring is pretty tricky because, I mean, writing the music is one thing, but knowing all the technical stuff is another thing, and that's probably the hardest part for me, because you have to write in these programs, and they're really complicated, and they're hard to, you know, make sound perfect, and with all the plugins and the audio inputs and the outputs, and just learning your way around everything is pretty tricky, but I'm getting there.
Tell about the programs you're talking about. Which are these computer programs?
Yeah, there's a couple that people use called Pro Tools or Ableton, or I use one called Logic Pro. And if you need to put something in a score, we use something called either Finale or Sibelius, which is a music software.
As a notation program, right?
Yeah, and those are incredibly helpful. And on top of these programs, there's a bunch of other programs which are called samples. And it's kind of complicated, but these samples you can download, and they have different sounds. So like one sample could be a violin sound, and so when I play a note on the piano, a violin comes out. Or one sample could be a synthesizer, and there's a million different options there. But it's definitely a whole different world, and I mean, it's something that you just have to know.
Now, are you interested in maybe the answer is both, but in writing for film scores, for writing like a synthesized score, or writing for orchestra?
It also depends on the director and what he wants, because you can either go either way, or you can mix the two. like, I was at a recording session in LA for an X-Men movie, and the orchestra was only actually playing just a couple of the parts. Most of it was synthesized. Oh my god, I can't even talk. Synthesized. Anyways. So like if there was a huge orchestra in the background, the only thing that the live orchestra played was like a high string note. It was insane.
Yeah. There's a lot of scores that are made that way. Titanic was a piece that used a lot of combination of synthesized score and some live orchestra. I don't know in what proportions, because sometimes it's really hard to tell. The synthesizers can sound just like real instruments, and there are actually some scores I can't tell whether it's a live orchestra or not.
If you're really good at manipulating these instruments and these programs, then I mean you can make anything sound real.
So well, tell us about this X-Men recording session. How did this come about that you got to watch this?
My lawyer actually, he invited me to go, and it was pretty awesome.
14 years old, her lawyer. Just kidding. Okay.
And we got there.
And this is not the defendant, by the way.
We got there, and it was in like one of those huge buildings in the Universal Studios lot, or something like that. And it was a huge studio, and the studio was amazing. And I mean, there's so many little parts that go into filming one scene. It's incredible.
So describe what you saw there.
There were like millions of people running around, and there was actually one part where the composer had to rewrite just an entire section just because the director did not like it after everything was done. He had to just rewrite it all.
And how much time did he have for that?
Probably a couple hours.
So, yeah.
So they have like a huge screen in the little booth that we sit in, and also where the orchestra can see it. And there's a conductor, and there's an engineer. Well, there's probably about 8 engineers, and they had really good food too.
Yeah. Can you tell them about the whole process of how they time the music to the screen? What goes on the screen that the conductor sees?
Well, you have the numbers, those huge numbers, I forgot the name of it, and you have your minutes, seconds, and frames. And it's kind of complicated because when you're writing something for orchestra, you have to do these things called synchronization settings, where you have to make sure everything is synced up in the project, which is what we call it in Logic, is when you have like a movie with your music, it's one project. So the music that I'm writing has to sync up with the film. And sometimes if you change the tempo in the music, it changes the tempo in the movie. So I mean, it's really kind of a delicate thing to control. But I mean, it's a huge part of a movie because I feel like a movie would not be the same without music.
And they've got the dots that flash on the screen?
Yeah, those are usually the conductor sometimes has his own little screen in front of him. And the different changes of tempo can sometimes be really interesting because it has to, match with the different key elements of the movie. Like if you're watching an animation movie and you hear like a bell go off when like a little dog jumps or something, that has to be timed perfectly when the orchestra plays it. So there can be crazy changes of like 140 to 32, tempo-wise. And then it can go from like, you know how in music there's a time signature? It can go from like 12/8 to 2/3 in like one measure. It's not fun, but I mean, it's definitely not fun to read, but it sounds great. So.
You ever thought about, gee, I'd like to be a conductor, I'd like to be a person that's leading all this stuff?
I feel like conducting is really hard art to master.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Because not only you have to make the music sound good, you have to command the whole orchestra. And I've tried conducting a couple times, but it's definitely something that I have to look into.
Well, you'll at at some point or another, you'll take a conducting class, because just everybody in music does. You got to learn how to conduct it, because anybody who's doing anything in music will act as a conductor sometime, and just in leading a group and just getting people to play together, and whether it's on stage or not. So some of the techniques are just invaluable. You just have to learn them anyway. But you don't feel, it's a good thing you don't feel the urge to to get up and pursue it, because conducting isn't a profession, it's a form of mental illness. So what are you doing in jazz these days?
I have a few concerts coming up, and just having fun. Jazz is great, I love it.
Who are you working with? I mean, who are you playing with? Who's in your trio or whatever?
Well, my usual trio, the bass player, his name is Peter Slavov, and the drummer, his name is Mark McLean. But these couple concerts that are coming up, it's going to be a different drummer, because Mark McLean, he's playing with Michael Feinstein on a couple gigs on the exact days that I'm playing. And he's on tour with them, so it should be fun.
Who out there in terms of performers, jazz or otherwise, who do you most admire?
In jazz, I'd probably, it's hard because there's so many of them. I really love this pianist, his name is Horace Silver, and probably don't know him, but he wrote a bunch of famous jazz songs that you would recognize, and obviously Quincy, his jazz tunes.
Not allowed. You can't talk about Quincy. It has to be somebody else.
Chick Corea is great. Herbie Hancock's amazing. Thelonious Monk is awesome. People.
You ever watched the late shows? Some of the, I've been really impressed with well, Stephen Colbert's band, and also the band for the guy who follows him, Glenn Corbin. Is that his name?
James Corbin.
Corbin.
James.
James Corbin. Yeah, wow, there's got some incredible people playing in those bands. You ever watch them?
Yeah, actually, John Baptiste and his band, who play on the Stephen Colbert show, I've known him since I was 7. We took a bunch of classes in Juilliard. I performed with him a couple times, and he's amazing. There's no one like him before.
No, I get the feeling in watching him, he has an amazing personality. Besides being an amazing musician, he is such a great foil to Stephen Colbert.
He is very, very charismatic.
You know any of the other people that play on the show?
No. I know of some of the people that play on Jimmy Fallon, and I know one of the guys that plays in Saturday Night Live band, but that's it.
I can't think of any questions right now, so I think maybe let you ask some questions if you'd like.
You're at an age that, as we were growing up, there were things that changed, like we had rock and roll, and we had all these music that our parents didn't like. Are you anticipating a change in what the young adults now will be liking in the future?
Well, right now, music's kind of everywhere that people my age enjoy. There's rap and pop and country, but I feel like there was a time, like in the early 2000s, where it was really electronic, and I feel like it's just coming back a little bit from that, because some of the really popular pop tunes have been more acoustic, which is interesting.
Okay, anybody?
What she does in her spare